Hello, everyone. I'm Gina Silva. Thanks for joining us. For months, Fox 11 News has been investigating allegations against San Bernardino County's Children and Family Services. Former social workers for the agency say children are dying and they are desperate to save them. We feel this is a very important story and continue to investigate the accusations made by our sources. Tonight, we wanted to give you an update into where we are in our investigation. Our sources came to us to blow the whistle on a department they say ignores evidence of abuse. We've learned about children who were abused, tortured, and murdered while under the supervision of CFS. And our efforts to reach out for a response from San Bernardino County officials has resulted in a few press releases that do not begin to address the allegations raised by our sources. Tonight, we're going to show you stories about the children who would be alive today if CFS had done its job. We want to warn you, the stories and the images you are about to see are extremely disturbing. Our sources asked us to show the photos as they were taken so you can see what these children endured.
Social workers are being told to leave children in homes that they know are unsafe.
I have been told to manipulate reports and omit information.
I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't sleep at night.
Children are dying, and children need our help.
Former San Bernardino social workers and department insiders are speaking out for the first time against Children and Family Services, CFS, a department they say is mismanaged and severely understaffed. And because of it, children are dying. This is toddler Jaleesa Girona Fontana. Our sources say for years she was beaten, tortured, and starved by her parents, Jesse Girone and Irene Corrales. On January 23, 2014, Jaleesa was found dead at the age of 5.5, weighing approximately 20 pounds. Her mother was charged with murder. Her father, murder and assault on a child causing death. Both pled not guilty and haven't been convicted. Jaleesa's relatives told investigators the mother hated her daughter and refused to feed her. The father admitted to police he slammed Jaleesa's head through this wall. Insiders say this child's death could have been prevented. CFS had repeated calls about possible abuse since 2011. For 3 years, Jaleesa was left in that abusive home until she was killed.
They also reported that when mom returned home from work, the child would cry and they could hear mother yelling, threatening to hit her and swearing at her. They told CFS this, and CFS came out and talked to mom. Mom denied it, and they closed the case. There were at least 7 cases where CFS had come out to that home, and all were unfounded.
This is 5-year-old Noah. Doctors say he has severe brain damage. It is the result of a brutal beating by his father's girlfriend on May 18, 2014. CFS documents show the department had 2 prior referrals alleging abuse. The social worker who responded interviewed Noah with his abusers present.
The social worker talked to Noah, and Noah was afraid to speak, apparently, in front of his father and his girlfriend. And so, although he admitted being hit, he didn't elaborate a lot.
So his case was closed. Authorities later discovered Noah was made to sleep in this tiny closet with a TV entertainment center blocking his way out. CFS finally did remove Noah after he ended up in the hospital with brain damage. On November 20th, 2014, this tragedy. Perhaps you remember our coverage. 2 children died in this fire. It was all over the news. What no one knew at the time is that CFS knew the parents of 2-year-old Saul Suarez and 6-year-old Kendra Leach had a history of domestic violence. They were drug addicts, unable to properly care for their children. Fire investigators determined the cause of the fire was a malfunctioning hot plate that was left on overnight. It happened while mom was in the hospital giving birth to another child and testing positive for meth. Dad was home alone with the kids.
He was high. He had fallen asleep on the couch. He left the hot plate plugged into its power source, which was power they were getting illegally from another apartment. And the fire started, and the children burned to death.
I was devastated for the immediate family, not the parents. They didn't know the extent that CFS was involved,
and that CFS could have done something to prevent their deaths.
These are just 3 of numerous disturbing cases brought to our attention. Our confidential sources say children are being left in dangerous situations every day. Why?
Because it saves the county a lot of money. Because the county is willing to gamble a child's life, thinking it's okay, they're being abused, we hope they're not going to be killed, because if they're killed, then the media gets light of it. But lots of children are left in homes where they just continue to be abused.
You get into this field with the idea that you're going to help people, that you're going to keep people safe, that you're going to do your job, and everywhere you turn, your hands are tied. You can't go out into the field and do your job because you have lawyers telling you what to do and what not to do.
Fox 11 News has learned that because of these allegations and many others, the San Bernardino County CFS is the target of a special grand jury investigation. The investigation began a year ago.
I hope that this hurts the heart of people. I hope that there are people that are offended by this story. And if you're not offended, you need to ask yourself why, because these are children.
You can see more on this story and our entire investigation into the San Bernardino County CFS on our website, foxla.com. And when we return, disturbing claims that CFS turned on their own social workers, accusing them of lying and even firing them. Welcome back. Former San Bernardino County social workers and department insiders say a closer look at CFS shows a department in shambles. A department that is supposed to protect children, yet repeatedly ignores evidence of abuse, allowing children to be beaten, tortured, and murdered. Again, we warn you, the images are disturbing.
I've decided to come forward because the children don't have a voice. And I keep getting phone calls and I keep hearing about kids that are dying.
Insiders of San Bernardino's Children and Family Services came to Fox 11 News because they say they have nowhere else to turn.
There was no one that I could talk to. I couldn't talk to HR. I couldn't talk to the union. I couldn't talk to my managers because they were all colluding with one another to try and keep all these cases, all these deaths buried.
Fearing retribution, they asked us to protect their identity. They tell us they're tired of the gross negligence and corruption in San Bernardino CFS.
Our sources say within the last year and a half, a large number of social workers have left the department.
You had a mass exodus. Over 200 social workers, and that can be confirmed, have fled the county. They have left.
Most of them quit over a county pay cut, reduction of their pension, and extremely high caseloads. Others quit over this case. A 9-month-old baby found dead, wrapped in a sheet under the kitchen table. The baby was one of 5 children in the home.
They had all kinds of injuries to their bodies. They had ligature marks, burn marks, bruise marks.
So the social worker decided to remove the remaining 4 children from the home. In an emergency protective custody hearing, a judge agreed and ordered the parents not to have contact with the children under any circumstance. But when those parents threatened to sue the county, a worried CFS had a change of heart and told the social worker,
We don't feel like the home was dirty enough. We don't feel like the kids were that unsafe.
There was a dead child.
You're right, and there was a dead child, and there was no explanation as to how this child ended up dead, wrapped in a sheet under a table.
Our sources say CFS turned on its own social worker, accused him of lying in his report. CFS had managers in court testifying against him and obtained a mistrial. The social worker was eventually dismissed and given several different reasons for his firing. When other employees found out, they quit. Those who stayed say their workload became unbearable.
At any given time, I had between 300 and 500 kids that I was specifically responsible for, and I was supposed to make determinations on life and death situations.
Our sources complained that managers are currently demanding social workers close open cases of alleged abuse and find a way to leave children with their families or face being fired. Some say they're being told to lie in their reports to cover up the abuse.
What happens is if you leave children in their home, you don't incur any of those expenses. So you gamble, you throw the dice. You hope that maybe the parents won't do something so severe as to cause a child's death or to cause permanent disability.
How expensive is it to remove a child?
Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
We tried to get an interview with Marlene Hagan, the director of CFS. She declined, but issued the following statement, which says in part, "When harm comes to a child, we feel it in every corner and at every level of this agency. The safety of our children is our #1 priority. As public servants, our social workers spend every day working hard to keep our children safe and to connect their families to resources in their communities to help them meet the safety and well-being needs of their children." The full statement is 3 paragraphs, which you can read on our website. Our offer to interview Director Hagan still stands.
There is more on this story and our Fox 11 investigation, The Children Are Dying, on our website, foxla.com. And coming up next, we ask the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors to respond to our investigation. Their answer may shock you. In our ongoing Fox 11 investigation, The Children Are Dying, we've told you about allegations that children are being left in dangerous homes by the San Bernardino County Children and Family Services. We've tried repeatedly to get somebody from CFS or from San Bernardino County to talk to us about these disturbing claims. So far, no one seems willing to discuss our reports. We remind you again, some of the images in the story are extremely graphic.
They're not looking out for the best interest of the kids. They're looking at what's the least amount of liability.
Insiders and former San Bernardino Children and Family Services social workers are risking their livelihood by blowing the whistle on what they call gross negligence by CFS management. They allege poor decisions have resulted in the deaths of numerous children. Children like Jaleesa Giron, who was abused, tortured, and left in an abusive home until she was killed. San Bernardino CFS has repeatedly turned us down for an on-camera interview. In addition, we've seen copies of internal emails from the county spokesman, David Wirt, to the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors, accusing Fox 11 News of being unfair. These emails provide talking points to the supervisors in the event they are asked about our investigation. They were at Tuesday's board meeting.
My name is Gina Silva. I'm a reporter with Fox 11 News. I have contacted each of you to try to get a response to investigative stories we've been doing. We feel that the public deserves a response from you.
Supervisor James Ramos's response began with one of the talking points from the email.
The Board of Supervisors and everyone in the county government takes this issue very seriously. Protecting our children is the county's highest priority. The death of any child is unacceptable here in San Bernardino County. We thoroughly investigate every incident, and we institute appropriate changes to protect our children.
At the end of the Board of Supervisors hearing, the public information officer told us he might be able to get someone from the county to give us a good interview. 30 minutes later, we were told there would be no interview.
As we first told you last week, the county grand jury has been investigating for more than a year allegations of wrongdoing at CFS. A report on its findings could come within the next few weeks.
As the district attorney, those are our most vulnerable victims, our children.
San Bernardino County District Attorney Mike Ramos couldn't comment on the grand jury, but he did have this to say.
That is I think, an ongoing investigation outside of my office. Right. And we will wait and see if there's anything referred to my office, at which time then we would open up an investigation if there's one that needs to be looked at, whether it's criminal or administrative.
I would expect that there should be some indictments from what I've seen. I believe that people should not be allowed to lie in court.
We took our investigative reports to California Attorney General Kamala Harris, who recently started a Bureau of Children's Justice Department, a bureau dedicated to protecting the rights of children. While she couldn't comment on the current grand jury investigation of CFS wrongdoing, Harris had this to say.
One of the reasons that I created the Bureau of Children's Justice was to hold counties and individuals accountable, and in particular accountable for our foster youth and our children most in need. We were acutely aware that we're falling short, in particular with our most vulnerable children, who are the children who are in the dependency system. So I take these cases very seriously, and I'm just going to ask you to stay tuned.
Oh, and we'll certainly stay tuned for that. Next on The Children Are Dying, a foster home that was still given children to care for 15 years after it had been decertified because of allegations of abuse. Our Fox 11 investigation into the San Bernardino County Department of Children and Family Services continues. This time our focus is on a foster home that had been decertified more than 15 years ago because of allegations of abuse. But CFS continued to place dozens of children in that home. Again, a warning, some of the details of these allegations are very graphic and disturbing.
I feel like no kid deserves it. Nobody understands what kids go through.
This teenager is talking about her experience in foster care.
We're getting hurt, we're getting abused, like anything possible, like that's what's happening to us.
For 3 years, this teen, her brother, and younger sisters were living in this house in Victorville with their foster parents. They say they wouldn't wish what happened to them on anyone.
What hurts the most about your experience at that home?
That nobody listened to us. No social worker had our back.
According to a lawsuit filed against the County of San Bernardino, the foster agency, and the foster parents, the kids were subjected to acts of neglect and mistreatment.
We were always locked outside, and we had to use the bathroom outside. So we had to make like a little fort, like a tree fort, that was our bathroom.
The lawsuit also alleges physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Attorney Jack Anthony says the two youngest girls, ages 6 and 7 at the time, were being sexually abused by the foster dad.
The girls said that he would lay on top of them, he would lay next to them, he would masturbate in their presence, he would take their clothes off, he would fondle them, he would digitally penetrate them, he had oral sex with them. He compelled them to touch him. So there's a whole laundry list of what he did.
The older kids say they didn't know about the sexual abuse, but looking back, there were signs.
Every single night, like I'll wake up and my sisters are not in their beds. And like I get up and they're like on the couch with him. Like I never like caught on, but something was happening and I didn't know what it was.
This search warrant indicates the young victims told detectives the wife knew her husband was sexually molesting them for years. The girls said their foster dad took nude photos of them and told one of them that he'd done the same with other foster kids.
He told her that what he was doing with her, he had done with other children that had been there before her. So I understood that to mean both the photographs and the sexual molestation.
It was later discovered the alleged abuser and his wife had lost their foster license 15 years ago because of allegations of abuse. So why did CFS allow more children to be placed with this couple? It appears to have been a clerical mistake.
The home was decertified, but nothing was entered into the system correctly. So it left these foster parents open to go from one foster family agency to another foster family agency and reapply to be foster parents. And what that resulted in, 54 more kids were placed in the home over the next 10, 15 years.
Our CFS confidential sources say a social worker was the first to discover the mistake. That social worker gave detectives a list of all the foster kids who had lived with a couple, figuring they were all potential victims.
This is where the corruption of the county comes in, because when the social worker told this to management, they took all of his files. They told him he was no longer working on this case.
The social worker got into big trouble. He was written up for sending confidential information to unauthorized personnel, even though he was helping with the child molestation investigation.
Not just one person, but several people dropped the ball, and the kids suffered tremendously as a result.
The kids are now in a safe place. The foster parents are facing a criminal investigation, and the County of San Bernardino is facing a lawsuit. As for this teenager, she wants to thank her confidential sources for blowing the whistle on CFS wrongdoing. She also wants to encourage others to do the right thing.
You have to be brave and stay strong, because something positive is going to come out of it if you speak up.
Our series, The Children Are Dying, will continue with more tragic cases of children lost in the system. As we've already mentioned, CFS and the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors have refused our request for on-camera interviews. You can read the statements they've issued on our website, foxla.com. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. I'm Gina Silva. Good night.